Hey everybody, this is my attempt to show you how to make a basic outline. As I mentioned in the PowerPoint, I really think taking the time to do an outline will save you a bunch of time in the future. Rather than sitting down in front of a blank white screen and staring at it and trying to figure out what to do, if you got an outline, your whole paper's already mapped out for you, and I really do believe your paper's about 75% done or so. It's just a matter of plugging in sentences. You've already got the structure and you've got the ideas. So to do that, I'm going to go with my very rough sample outline for paper one. This is all I would require of an outline. If you're in an ALP class, you are required to do the outline for that class. Otherwise, it's up to you. I do think it's just a good idea to do to plan. And this is you need something as simple as this. If you want to go into more detail, fine. But my intro, I know my intro is going to be an upside down triangle. It's going to start broad with some general stuff about the major topic or issue that is going to be common among the two articles that you choose for paper one. I mean, it really applies to any paper, but this is specifically paper one, the compare and contrast. Then I'm going to give a summary of each article. You'll have summaries from your journals. Take them. I need a full summary of each article before you actually start talking about the articles in your other paragraphs. You need to introduce them in the introductory paragraph. So again, that's just simple stuff of following the essay format. And then I'm going to need my thesis. Notice I've got everything else filled out, but my thesis is blank. The thesis will come as the last sentence in your introductory paragraph. However, I would not come up with my thesis until after I've come up with all my topic sentences. My topic sentences tell what my paragraphs are going to be about. And if my thesis is going to tell what my whole paper's about, I can't really know what my whole paper's about until I decide what my paragraphs are going to be about. So I decided to do this rough sample outline on Rothenberg's article, Child of Divorce, and Sullivan's article, Why the M Word Matters to Me. It's as simple as this. I did my brainstorming. I came up with a list of similarities and differences. So now I'm trying to put them together. My first idea is that the titles give some information, but they also have intrigue. Notice that's not a really great sentence. This is an outline. None of these are really great sentences. I'm going to polish that up. This is just a roadmap. So my idea for that was Sullivan's Why the M Word Matters to Me. Okay, well, one, I don't know what the M word is. I'm trying to think of curse words that start with M. But I know it's personal because he says matters to me. Rothenberg's Child of Divorce. Okay, I assume it's going to be about a child who comes from divorced parents, but it's different than what I would expect because hers are mostly happy memories. So I'm going to try to do a paragraph about the topic, about the title. Sorry, not the topics. So my ideas for Rothenberg, hers is clearly about child's perspective of divorce, but surprisingly not negative. Then I'm going to need an example, which is a direct quotation, and the page number. I would not actually write page number. I just did that in the first one so that you know the page number would go there. Or for Sullivan, I actually should write. I know his is lines, so I should write lines because I will write line numbers. Now, the only example I can use for this topic sentence is really the title. So I pretty much know what my quote's going to be. Sullivan, his title is unclear and it's confusing, but it's personal. And then I'm going to give his title. And then after that, I'm going to explain and analyze why I think this about the title, how the titles do what I say they do here and here. That's going to probably be kind of tough. I don't have a lot to write about for titles, but it's one idea I had. Another idea is I thought both authors use personal experience. I'm looking for similarities and both talk about themselves. So Rothenberg, my plan to write about her is that she grew up with divorced parents and she uses vivid details. I'm going to give an example of anything she says about growing up with divorced parents. I mean, so much of it's in first person. I can use any quote that I can explain well. And I'm going to try to give a quote about something that is really specific. The vivid details that stood out to me are when she's describing her mom walking backwards through the house, turning off the lights, or her brother playing chess or checkers. I don't have it in front of me. I think it's checkers through the mail with the dad. So maybe those would be the examples I would use. And again, then I would just explain each. Of course, I'd set the context beforehand. I'd follow all that stuff. This is just an outline to get my ideas in the right place. Sullivan is a closeted homosexual, and he uses an internal struggle. He focuses on his difficult journey to accept himself and come to terms with his sexuality and be accepted. So I'm going to find some example of that. Maybe it took years for me to realize I was gay, years more to blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to quote the whole thing. For your outlines, by the way, I would want you to actually include your examples. I specifically didn't because I didn't really want to write down the examples that I would use in case anyone else looks at this and is like, oh, I kind of wanted to compare those two, and I don't want you to feel like you're stealing my idea. So I guess you can write on these two articles, but yeah, come up with your own ideas. So then, topic sentence 3, another thing I noticed, both are very emotional and inspirational. Rothenberg's is about, hers includes the emotions of pain and struggle at first, but it's mostly happy and inspiring. I think so, at least, and I can find a quote or quotes to prove that. Sullivan's, he's mostly going for sympathy. It's filled with sadness, but I think it ends with an inspirational note to others. I'm going to give a quote and explain how and why that quote proves this. Another idea I had is that both stress the importance of family. Rothenberg equals important, Sullivan equals important. Pretty simplistic. This paragraph is going to be about how Rothenberg thinks family is important, with an example and an explanation of the quote, and then same for Sullivan. Topic sentence 5, another idea. I thought the endings were similar. I thought Rothenberg's was personal, but it ends with a message or lesson to everybody. So she has that personal touch, but it's really reaching out to all readers. And then Sullivan's I thought was not quite as personal, but it still had that message to everybody. And then finally, I thought that the authors have a very different sense of self. Rothenberg seems confident and okay with herself, and Sullivan really seems to be struggling with his own identity throughout. So a couple things to notice. One, some of these have multiple examples for each author. Some have just one. That's completely up to you. The more evidence you provide, the more thoroughly you're going to prove your point. Just at the bare minimum, you need one quote per author per paragraph. If I really wanted to also, I'm going to take this one, for example. Both are very emotional, inspirational. If I really wanted to, I can decide for every one of these paragraphs if I want to actually break this up into one paragraph or two paragraphs. So this could be my topic sentence. Both are very emotional, inspirational. If I have a few examples that I want to talk about for Rothenberg, and I can write a lot about them, it takes me a second to type, and let's say I did that a couple times, then, and this paragraph gets to be like half a page, or Jesus, even a page, then I should probably break it and do Sullivan in a separate paragraph, and just start his with, Sullivan's article also is very emotional and inspirational, and then I do a paragraph just on this part of his. So it's up to you whether you want to combine the authors into one paragraph or separate them into their own. I really think it's about how much you have to say. If you have kind of a little bit to say on Rothenberg and it's kind of a short paragraph, then combine it with Sullivan. Just make sure your topic sentence reflects that. Both authors do this, both authors do this. Okay, so I've got this rough outline. Let me tell you, this is going to be one hell of a long paper if I use all of these ideas. So after doing this, I mean, you might do this beforehand too if you know which ideas are kind of good and bad, but I like to go through all my ideas, come up with my examples, and then choose the best ones. So I'm going to say, you know what? I don't think I could write a whole lot about titles. Scratch it. I think I could write a lot about personal experience. I really do like the idea of emotional and inspirational. I like the idea of stressing the importance of family. I don't think I could write a lot about the endings either. So I'm going to cut 2 of those. And that leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4 body paragraphs ideas. 4 ideas for body paragraphs. Now what I have to do is cram those into a thesis. Ideally, your thesis will be one single sentence, and it's going to cover the ideas that will be addressed. So I'm looking at similarities and differences. Personal experience in both, that's a similarity. Both are emotional and inspirational, that's a similarity. Both stress the importance of, that's a similarity, and different sense of self, that's a difference. I'll go minus. So how can I put these into one sentence without making it sound ridiculously wordy? By the way, if you do have a whole lot of ideas, I'd say more than 4, or it's just really hard to cram these 4 ideas into one thesis, then simplify. And you can say, although the authors have a few things in common, they also have many differences. Or, while the articles are very similar, they also have their differences. That covers it. That's fine. If you learned in English 096 or 093 that you have to list all of your main ideas in your thesis, you don't have to. You should if you can smoothly. If it's going to make the sentence real funky and awkward, don't do it. I think I can do it. So let's try. Let's see. Personal experience in both emotional, inspirational, and both stress and importance. So both authors share personal and emotional stories that stress the importance of family, but they differ in their sense of self. I don't like how I worded that sense of self. I'm going to go back and revise that again. This isn't even a draft; it's an outline. But this is the idea for a thesis. I think I crammed these 4 ideas in, and it's not too wordy. I think it flows. Both authors share personal and emotional stories that stress the importance of family, but they differ in their sense of self. From reading that one sentence, you now know what my whole freaking paper is going to be about. They share personal stories, they're emotional, they're about family that is important, and they differ in sense of self. So that outlines my entire paper. Um, I think that kind of wraps it up. That's what I'm looking for. Um, let's see, anything to review before I sign off? There's no limit to how many paragraphs you need. The paper needs to be a minimum length. If it's the more ideas, the number of paragraphs you have is determined by the number of ideas you have. I had 4 ideas that I thought were worthy of writing of, so I'm going to have 4, actually potentially 4 to 8 paragraphs. Again, depends on if I split these up into 1 or 2. I could have 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 paragraphs. I could choose to split this paragraph up, but not this one up, but not this one. I could keep it like it is, where this is just going to be 4, etc. And then the other thing on this document, if you scroll farther down, it was on a separate page, is I said it would be hard for me to write about the different titles. So I took that one out of my thesis. But you know what? I figured that was the challenging one. Let me give that a shot anyway and see what I can get. And I got about 3/4 of a page. I got a pretty solid paragraph. So if you want to see a sample of a body paragraph on something that I thought would be actually pretty difficult to write, here's how I do it. I'm not going to read it all out loud to you, but you can see how I set the context of the quote, which is hard when it's just the title. There's not a whole lot of context. You can see how I explain the quote, which is the key. You want to say a lot about a little. So the outline, you're just picking out your ideas and getting the quotes that you're going to plan to prove them. You pick those quotes for a reason. You think those quotes prove whatever point you're making. I don't see it. I don't get it. Pretend I have no idea. I just don't agree with you. Well, you explain it to me. You say, I mean, you don't actually say this is how the quote shows this, but that's essentially what you're explaining. You can even take words from the quote and show that these words show this. When he writes this, it emphasizes this. Blah 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 blah. So anyway, you can see how I did that in this sample for titles, and hopefully that helps. So from an outline that was filled with ideas, some that I didn't think were great, to this. And again, this is for ALP. This is all I will require. You will just need to actually include your quotes so that I can see what you're going to use. But if you've got topic sentences and the ideas, the big ideas that you're going to use to support those topic sentences, your outline is done. Your paper, believe me, I think this paper is 75% done. I mean, this is less so because I didn't pick my quotes. Okay, hope that's helpful, and hopefully doing an outline leads you to a much stronger paper. I hope you take the time to do it, and I hope to read some great papers.